Hello and welcome to another Jump Jump Die Dota 2 support guide. Today I'm going to be talking about Abaddon, Lord of Avernus. Now, Abaddon is one of the most versatile supports in the game, and when I say supports, I use that very loosely because he can really do anything, except for a few roles like Initiator, but he can do so many different things. This character is awesome. He can heal, he can block damage, he can be indestructible for a short amount of time, he can increase the value of your carries. He is just so pimp, and from these little clips you can sort of see a sample of what he can do in battle. Now, the way I like to play this guy is as a support, but as I said before, he can do almost anything, so it's up to you to choose how you want to play him in any given game, because that can change from time to time. So, you'll see some of the items in this game, some of the builds, aren't standard support builds because I didn't play him necessarily as a full hard support in these games. I played him as almost like a semi-carry role mostly, but that is because the circumstances that I recorded these games in warranted that response. But you can play him as a hard support. So what I usually like to do is grab a wand on him, maybe an urn, a drums of endurance, maybe a mech, but those core items on a Avernus are pretty awesome in the mid game and late game, and you'll find that even with a small amount of items, you'll be extremely tanky and you'll be able to do a lot of damage just by being in the battle. So I want to start off by talking about his abilities. Now, his first ability is Mist Coil. You can see me using it here to hit this Weaver. Now, it's got a very long range. It's a 250 damage nuke, but it can also be used as a heal for your friendly teammates. The downside is that it will do 125 damage to yourself at max level. So that sounds like a downside, and I know I just said it is a downside, but it's also an upside, which I'll talk about later. Now, his next ability is Aphotic Shield. It's got a shorter range of about 500, a burst radius of 675, and it acts as a shield that will take damage over time, and once it reaches a certain amount of damage, 200 at max level, it will burst out and damage the enemy targets around you. Now, not only will it do that, but it will remove negative buffs on cast as well as stuns. Now, this won't work on yourself because if you've got it on yourself, you can't recast it on yourself once you're stunned because you'll be stunned. But on an enemy who's been hit by maybe RP or a very long Chaos Knight stun, this is absolutely invaluable because you can remove that 4-second stun immediately and they can stay in the fight and cop a bit more damage and do damage in return. So that's pretty amazing. Now, his third ability is something that I don't recommend maxing first. I usually recommend maxing Aphotic Shield and Mist Coil alternately, but that doesn't necessarily mean this is the only build to do. Curse of Avernus can be quite useful in certain situations. Now, this move slows the enemy down on hit for 20% of their movement speed and gives you and your allies who hit the enemy 40 attack speed as well as 15% movement speed for 4.5 seconds. The buff lasts on the enemy for 2.5 seconds at max level. So you've got to keep this up, and as you hit the enemy, you'll be attacking faster and faster, and it'll be easier to keep this up. This can be sometimes useful early game. I usually recommend getting at least 1 or 2 ranks of this ability early on in the game, usually just 1 rank by about halfway through the game. But I do recommend getting his heal and Aphotic Shield first, because they are invaluable, and they will help you in team fights more than Curse of Avernus will. Now, his ultimate. This is a kick-ass ability that will keep you in the fight pretty much for the whole fight. You'll be the last person to die most of the time. You can see it activating right now. So, what it actually does, at 400 HP, it will activate automatically. Once it activates, it will negate every projectile that's currently in the air going towards you, so they will all miss. It will also remove all negative buffs on activation. But that is not all. What it does is, every time you're damaged, for the short amount of time that it is active, will actually heal you. So you'll become indestructible for that 3, 4, 5 seconds, depending on what level it is. It actually increases up to 7 seconds with Aghanim's Scepter. So you'll end up being an absolute monster with that ultimate activated. And you can see me here, not dying. I just stayed in the battle. Treant runs away from me because he thinks I'm going to die. And I completely dominate these guys until my friends come back in and save me. So it's really, really good to get this at level 6. Now, I'd also like to reiterate that any item that allows you to stay alive longer as Lord of Avernus is a bonus. But there is a few items that have a few interesting effects based off his ultimate, and one of those is Mask of Madness. Now, Mask of Madness increases your attack speed and basically makes you run faster and do everything faster. But not only that, it actually makes you weaker to enemy damage. So it does 30% damage increase on you. Now that sounds crap at first, but when you tie that in with Borrowed Time, your ultimate, you will get increased heals very, very quickly. Now, this is really good because very smart enemy players will know to stop attacking you as soon as this ultimate pops. But if you have Mask of Madness, they'll get a few extra hits in on you, and they won't have time to react to your ultimate popping, and you'll get a lot of health back very, very quickly. Now, I also want to quickly talk about some of the other items that I like to get on him, just in case you feel like playing a carry role. Now, 2 of these items, Phase Boots. Now, this can be switched out between Arcane Boots and Power Treads if you're playing support, but Phase Boots is very good early on because it gives you a lot of damage. It allows you to chase down your enemies using the boost of speed that you get when activating it. So, it's a very reliable item, but you can interchange these with Power Treads, which will allow you to get a lot of extra tank, extra mana, and extra attack speed depending on what stat that you're using at the time. Now, the other item that I like to get is the Assault Cuirass. This is a pretty cool item because it obviously increases your armor, allowing you to be more tanky, but it also increases the armor and attack speed of yourself and the people around you. So obviously all benefits to you. Now, the last item that I would recommend, and really you can buy anything on Avernus, but this is something that I quite like to get if you're going for a more carry role, is the Chrysalis and the Daedalus if you can afford it. Because you're attacking so fast, and you're always applying this buff, the extra crit and extra damage that you'll get from these items is extremely powerful. Now, it's not all gravy with Lord of Avernus. I do want to point out a few of his flaws. Firstly, he can be very easily countered by a character called Axe. He has an ability which allows him to kill anyone who's under a certain amount of health. So, as soon as they get to that level of health, he can pretty much kill you instantly. This goes through your activated ultimate, so you got to be very, very careful of that. Now, Lion and Lena can also kill you outright if they cast their ultimate on you before your ultimate has activated. If it casts after the ultimate is activated, you get a heal. Anyway, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this short support guide for Abaddon, Lord of Avernus, and make sure you rate, comment, and subscribe if this video helped you. Peace out!